Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today to learn about NextCycle Michigan and two of the innovation tracks, part of that initiative. I'm Emrad, I'm a Senior Communication Strategist with RRS, and I'll be your host for today. We are going to go through a few housekeeping items just to keep this webinar rolling smoothly. All of the attendees are muted, so we can't hear you, but we want to hear from you. So please use the Q&A button on your navigation bar, usually at the bottom of your Zoom screen. I want to note that's a little bit different than the chat box. The Q&A box lists the questions for us in a nice order to help me stay organized once we get to the question and answer session a little bit later. So Q&A box for questions. Also, we are recording this webinar. We will be sharing that link out in the days to come. Next up, I want to walk through the agenda just so you have an expectation of what we're going to cover this afternoon. You can check off number one, we have welcomed you. Second up, we are going to get a little perspective of why NextCycle Michigan exists. Then we're going to walk into the challenge track, the NextCycle structure itself. What is it? How does it work? And then each of those tracks and the specifics around those requirements. And then we're going to talk about the application and selection process, so you have a good understanding of what is going on. And then we'll wrap with the Q&A session where you can throw questions at us left and right. So again, please use that Q&A button to get your questions throughout the session. You don't have to wait till the end. Throw them at me throughout the entire session. I'll get those organized. First up, I'd like to welcome Matt Flechter. Matt is a recycling market development specialist with the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, also known as EGLE. NextCycle Michigan is an initiative of EGLE, and Matt is here to help us understand why we need a program like this in Michigan. Matt?
Thanks, Melissa. I'm so glad we're here today to talk about NextCycle Michigan and the work that we're doing to grow Michigan's circular economy. For over 20 years, I've worked to make sure that those materials that you put at the curb, or if you're at a business at your loading dock, make their way from your loading dock into a new product made here in Michigan, instead of to hole in the ground in a landfill forever and ever. We know that strong markets exist in Michigan. We know that there are partnerships that are forming every day to address the challenges and innovate in the recycling space. And we know that organics and food waste and other organics are a key driver of climate creating gases. And we know that we can make a difference by working together. So that's really why we started NextCycle Michigan. We know that the investments that are being made can't just be on the backs of government. We have partnerships, we have investment opportunities, we have job growth that can happen in Michigan if we work together. We created NextCycle Michigan with 6 innovation challenges that Bryce will walk through. We're using data to guide those decisions, so we know where we can place the funding most effectively, so we can fill the gaps. We're also telling the story of the strong climate solutions that come from managing materials differently. Again, public and private partnerships are key to this success. And we are looking for an equitable impact so that all communities have access to the resources and the opportunities to use materials differently rather than landfilling. And key to that are the economic advantages and the jobs that are created and the stories that are told in each and every community to move materials from waste into new products. NextCycle Michigan is a collaborative effort. It's led by EGLE with partners of the Michigan Recycling Coalition, Centropolis Accelerator, and Resource Recycling Systems. And as you learn more about this today, I want you to think about what your project could be, because Michigan can't succeed if we don't have your ideas moving into action. And some of those barriers to action might be data or technical assistance or funding. And so thinking about what your needs are and how we can support you is going to be really important to get a good project off the ground. So thank you very much for letting me introduce this, and I'll hand it back to you, Melissa.
Thank you so much, Matt. We appreciate you framing that NextCycle and Michigan goals together, get us starting rolling here. Next, I want to welcome Bryce Hesterman. He's going to dig into the structure of NextCycle Michigan. He is a senior consultant with RS, as well as a track lead for one of the NextCycle Michigan tracks. So Bryce, I'm going to hand it off to you. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much, Melissa and Matt, for that great intro. So yeah, I want to start, Matt talked about the 6 innovation challenges, and really what this webinar about today is the launch of 2 of those innovation challenges. So I do want to present that and really, focus here on that aspect of the program here moving forward. So you'll see the 6 that are listed here, and that's a lot of information. There's the food, liquids, and organic waste systems, which we call flows. We're going to be talking about that today. I am the flows track lead. We have intergovernmental initiatives and public-private partnerships. That's for our public sectors, municipalities, counties. That's a track to help accelerate those projects. And that's actually in process right now. There's a micro grant track, which is taking up to $10,000 and putting that towards small funding for big ideas, kind of get those off the ground. Recycling innovation and technology is looking at novel innovations in the recycling space. Megan's going to be talking about that later today. We also have recycling supply chain and roads, both of which are focused on building supply chains for recovered recycled materials and putting them into new products. Roads is specifically for roads products, and recycling supply chains is for any other kind of product and packaging. So like I said, we're going to be focusing on 2 of these tracks here today. And those 2 are the flows and RIT. And the reason that we are here is that those applications are launching today. And so this is your opportunity if you have an idea that's in the organic space or an idea that is focused on novel technologies. This is your chance to apply to participate in the program to benefit from some of this technical assistance and access to funding pathways that Matt talked about earlier. So when we talk about what this challenge program is and kind of the benefits that you receive from it by participating, it is a 6-month program that's designed to support material recovery businesses and projects as they prepare for growth, funding, and implementation. And so this is kind of that notion of you have a really good idea and you've made some headway, but you need a little bit of a boost to get to the next level, to get that project funded and get it implemented. And this is the program that's going to help you. And so we have growth planning. So we have consultants that will work with you to map out a plan for that 6-month program and how we're going to take you from where you are to where you want to be. This also includes one-on-one mentorship and consulting with industry experts. We at RRS, Centropolis Accelerator, Michigan Recycling Coalition, we've been in this industry for decades in Michigan. And so we have a lot of understanding and ability to help you take it to the next level. And we'll provide that through one-on-one support. We'll also support you through educational boot camp and a pitch showcase. So these are collective events where the cohorts get together and share the work that they're doing, work together on improving them, and establish kind of a peer network of folks that are at the same or similar stages moving forward together. Networking is a huge part of this. As I said, with these decades of experience, there's a strong network here, and this is an opportunity to get you plugged into that network to help advance your project. And last but not least, none of this happens without funding. While there's no direct funding associated with these challenge tracks, part of the focus is lining you up and finding the right funding pathway for you and helping you to position yourself to receive that funding in larger amounts beyond kind of those micro grants. We're talking, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 grants. When we talk about the teams that can apply, and so these are tracks that are focused on private sector and nonprofit and academic institutions, research institutions. Like I said, there's another track focused on public sector, and these 2 tracks are really focused on the business and nonprofit sectors. And so you might be an existing business, you might be a startup, You might be an entrepreneur or a nonprofit. There's always great ideas coming through universities through their commercialization programs and tech transfer. We are absolutely encouraging partnerships and collaborations. And so if you have multiple sectors and organizations that want to come together around a project, that's highly encouraged. And we are really focused on bringing access to services and access to opportunity to underserved communities. So there's an extra emphasis on supporting those communities that have not always been participating in the recycling system to this point. I do want to note that all of the projects need to have a Michigan focus, and so I want that to be very evident up front. Just a general track timeline. We're here right now in this kind of recruitment and selection process. The applications have opened. They're going to be open through July 22nd. Then there's going to be a review and selection process where we're going to be announcing in August who the cohorts are. There's going to be a target of 8 teams for the RIT track, 8 teams for the flows track. And then our work's going to get started in September. So that September to February is that programming period. That's that 6-month program. And so we start with that work plan development, move into the boot camp, which we're anticipating to have in person. And then we're ending with that showcase pitch competition. And throughout that period, we're going to be working with you one-on-one with that consulting. And then early 2023, end of February, early March is when we're going to complete the track. So that's the general timeline. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Flows Innovation Challenge. Like I said, I'm the Flows track lead, and so I will be a point person for any of you that have projects related to organic recovery. Quite simply, here's the challenge statement. Teams are challenged to improve Michigan's organic waste reduction, recovery, or processing systems. And what you see there is trying to kind of cover that whole food waste circular economy, or organic waste circular economy, from reduction or prevention to recovery, which means collection, or in the ultimate way to processing systems, whether that's composting, anaerobic digestion, innovative ways of making new products out of those materials that are recovered. Here are our minimum eligibility requirements. We do want to cast a pretty broad net. Like I said, they need to be Michigan-based. So your firm doesn't need to be based in Michigan, but your project focus does need to be based in Michigan. The suite of materials we're looking for is simply anything that is organic. So that's food waste is a key, wood waste is key as well, but there's other agricultural waste and et cetera that can fit into this program. We do want projects that are and ideas that are technically proven. And so RIT is a place for some of these novel ideas. This is a place where there is a best practice that's been established somewhere. There's progress made towards that. There's early success. And we're taking it to the next level. And so we're not focusing on feasibility for this track. We're looking more at technically proven that just are ready to scale. And then ultimately, we want those projects to potentially be self-sufficient. So that's the key to this program, is that there is a model of your project or business that has revenues that can exceed the cost of operating that. So that's a key for eligibility, is that you can demonstrate that there's a potential to reach that point sometime in the near future. To give you an idea of the types of projects that are eligible here, I just want to share with you real quick the teams that were part of this last year. And so we have Sabermetrics, which focused on food waste prevention. And so they were a technology-based company that uses AI and sensor technology to prevent food waste. We have Remark Composting Solutions in Wayne State University. This was a great collaboration that was focusing on developing a really innovative community-driven composting solution through collaboration with public and private and universities. Seeds is a nonprofit organization in Traverse City, Michigan. They're looking at developing a regional organics recovery system, and so that's in northern Michigan. Coco Corporation, they're a business that's doing composting. They were looking to innovate a new process to incorporate medium density fiberboard from the furniture industry into their process. I'm not going to talk about Wormies because I'm going to hand it over to Luis after this to talk in more detail, but he's got a great project that he's going to talk about. And then the last two, Urban Ashes, focused on wood waste utilization at the local level, and then Unlimited Recycling, they're a waste hauler that wants to expand their scope to improve their organic collection capacity. So those are the types of projects that we want to see. And that's not limited to that, but you'll see that there is a range of projects from prevention to recovery to processing through different means for end use. And so now I'm going to hand it over to Luis, who, like I said, is the founder of Wormies. They were one of my favorite teams to work with. And I'll let him talk about his experience in the flows track last year. Take it away, Luis.
All right, thank you, Bryce. Yeah, that was great. Can you all hear me? Okay, yeah, I'm Luis Chen, the founder and owner of Wormies. So we are a composting company. We compost with worms, and we offer a residential and commercial pickup service, curbside service of food waste. We have about 400 members on our pickup service. And we have a farm where we bring all these food waste. We use traditional thermophilic composting, and then a second step will be composting with worms. Yeah, so I heard about NextCycle in December 2020. And I started reading. I say, okay, all these tracks, this is amazing. There was flows, the micros, and the big infrastructure grant. So I said, I need all these three. How do I do this? So there was someone from NextCycle who was like some sort of introduction, gave me an introduction. So we really clicked, and he advised me to apply for the flows. And I said, you sure? I applied for the flows, but at the same time, I also applied for the micros and the big infrastructure grant, because it seemed like I was fitting for all those stages of growth. At that point, we have been in business for about 4 years, and I was ready to move to a new location, to expand, to grow. And there was so much going on, there was the pandemic, growth, all in or go out of business. So I said, okay, NextCycle is here. We purchased land to move from the quarter acre that we were working before. And we got accepted into the flows. And that was amazing because, we just purchased this land. We're ready to grow. Okay, it was so much to do. So it really helped me to just, revise that business plan. Okay, what are the goals moving forward? Okay, and I was in touch with all these industry experts. Okay, we review my business plan. We reviewed my goals. And then most importantly, composting here in West Michigan, people have been composting for decades, but composting food waste doesn't have a clear framework. So it was difficult to navigate, approach the township and tell them, okay, I'm gonna be composting with worms. They were like, what? No, what? So it was really, there is not a framework that they can go into and say, and tell me, okay, this is what you have to do. So I will tell them, okay, would you consider me an agricultural operation? They said, no. So anyway, I got in contact with Eagle, director through NextCycle, and he really helped me. He really helped the township, follow a path. So they created an ordinance for the township, and they were really happy, after looking at the business plan that I built with NextCycle. They were excited, because Wormies is a small scale, medium scale composting operation. We were not there. The risk is really low compared to, a bigger facility. So they understood, okay, this is not gonna be risky to have it in our township. And okay, now they're giving us the go ahead to go with the developments. So, you know, with the help of Eagle through NextCycle, we had a quick support from the entity that regulates the composting industry. So the township was able to, okay, move things quickly. So that's one of the biggest things that I got that support from NextCycle. And then, you know, the site needed the design. Okay, so how do we do this? So I got in contact through the one-on-one sessions in the flow track. One engineer, her name is Nicole. She actually designed a compost facility for the city. So she came to our site, she looked at the topography, and she advised me, okay, this could be the flow that you're gonna have in your site. So yeah, and then we went ahead, we finished the flows track, and then we were awarded the infrastructure development grant, which was such a huge blessing. Thank you. So we are ready to grow with the help of that grant. At that point, you know, another thing that was difficult, it was to find funding. Okay, I only have 4 years in business in an industry that doesn't have any track, you know, like they cannot go into another company and compare. I'm pretty much the only one with this type of business model or doing what I'm doing. So it was difficult to find funding, traditional funding, like going into a bank. So yeah, through NextCycle, yeah, I've been able to find a few sources of funding. Yeah, so we are moving into a 13-acre site. Did I go over the 10 minutes? Good. Okay, so yeah, so we are finally moving into the 13 acres. So yeah, I'll give it away, and yeah, that's all we have. I'll be happy to answer any other questions you have later. I'll give it to the next person. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis. And yes, stick around. We're going to have plenty of questions. Wormies is such an interesting one. You have the best name ever, but also an interesting business model. And thank you for sharing your experience of NextCycle and how it took you and nurtured that project and expansion to get that furthered and prepped you to secure that grant afterwards. So Luis, thank you so much. Stick around. Next up, we're going to welcome Megan Weeb. Megan is a consultant with RRS. She's also a track lead. She's the track lead of the Recycling Innovation and Technology track, which she is going to walk us through right now. Thanks, Megan.
Perfect. Thanks, Melissa. Yeah, like Melissa said, I'm leading the RIT track, which I think is really cool. So the RIT track, and I know it overlaps its acronym with the Rochester Institute of Technology, but the RIT track is the Recycling Innovation and Technology track. So Bryce kind of went through what a challenge track is, but essentially this track is all about technical assistance for those early stage businesses, which if you've done a startup or you're working through something, is sometimes really hard to get assistance when you don't have traction yet, when you don't have a revenue stream yet. So the RIT track teams that are applying to the track, they are challenged to essentially create something novel within recycling, within composting, within waste diversion. So it is very open. So you can be on the collection side, you can be a sortation technology, you could be an end market. So if you're using recycled content in your products, you can apply to RIT. If you're an app, developing an app, and you are looking at preventing food waste and things like that, you can apply to RIT. So it's the challenge track is pretty open. Flows is focused on organics, RIT, technology, innovation, early stage. So in terms of the eligibility, similarly to the flows track, the applicants need to be working with Michigan materials. So it needs to be Michigan based in some way, right? So the state is funding, is supporting this initiative. They have a goal of reaching 45% diversion rate. So they want these projects to be focused on Michigan materials, diverting Michigan materials. So if you're an out-of-state team, that doesn't mean you're excluded. The great thing about this program is that if you're out of state, out of country, that's totally fine. Reach out to us. We can help connect that partnership with a Michigan, company or city or, other Michigan organization, and you can apply to RIT. So keep that in mind. You're not out if you're not in Michigan. The second eligibility is just you have to be diverting waste in some way. So you have to be reusing, diverting, reducing waste in some capacity. So we're not looking at landfill technologies, we're not looking at waste to energy, things like that. We're looking for those materials management projects. And then really the key of RIT is this idea that the technology or process is novel. And it doesn't mean that your project has to be the first ever in the entire world, that no one else has done anything like this. It just means it has to be novel to Michigan. It has to have some novel component. So maybe you're a business that has been successful in another state and Michigan doesn't really use this type of technology or this process. That would be eligible for RIT. So it just has to be novel in some capacity. And then it has to be able to scale or be invested in. It just means we want to see your project impact more than just your backyard. We want to see it grow maybe to your community, maybe to other communities. Maybe it's something that can be invested in and grow long-term. So I want to highlight the 2021 teams because I think they give good examples of the wide range of projects that can fit into this RIT track. So Glacier is an out-of-state team that applied. They reached out to us and said, hey, we're kind of interested in this NextCycle Michigan, but can we apply? And we said, absolutely, we will find you those partners. So we helped partner them with MRFs in Michigan, so recycling facilities in Michigan. And they have a robotic company. So they have AI-enabled robots that help pick up materials at MRFs. InnovaCoat is a really cool company that takes waste powder coatings and recycles them. If you've ever touched any furniture or automotive, there's a ton of applications for waste powder, for powder coatings. So they have a novel technology to recycle those. Polyplastic, they are validating a technology to help recover mixed plastics. Pivot Materials is a really cool, more mature company that is working with a paper manufacturer to recycle their by-waste into these really cool, you can kind of see some of their cups and other products. Michigan State University and Finite Phoenix have an early stage composting technology. So there is a university and a company coming together for a team. Isaac is a nonprofit that is working on recycling textile waste with a new pin felting technology. And then Western Michigan University, if you've never seen their paper recycling facility, that's a picture of it, but they are working on expanding and becoming the fourth lab in North America to be able to test and certify compostable products. So with that, I am going to introduce Madeline Miller, who's the multi-talented founder of Nextiles, which is a very cool textile company. I don't want to spill the beans, but she went through the program in late 2021 and early 2022. So Madeline, thanks for joining us and excited to hear about your experience.
Thanks so much, Megan. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, well, thanks everybody for joining. As Megan said, I'm Madeline Miller. I'm the founder of NextTiles, and we are a Detroit-based textile recycling company that collects pre-consumer textile waste from Metro Detroit fashion and automotive manufacturers. And our primary goal is to divert this waste from landfill. And so our NextCycle Michigan project and our area of focus right now is converting that textile waste material to a low-cost building insulation that will in turn improve the condition and performance of homes and buildings throughout the state of Michigan. The images on this slide are pictures from our product undergoing lab testing, which is for us a really exciting milestone that NextCycle Michigan has helped us achieve. And I'm excited to share more about my experience. So I'll start off by saying that I am super grateful to have known about this NextCycle Michigan opportunity. And it has truly helped to propel my business in the right direction. From the time I learned of the RIT track, I was excited to apply and I thought my business was a great fit for the program. But one of the things that I think about often and that can be discouraging to startups and small business owners when applying for opportunities like RIT is an application that is difficult to maneuver or a lack of technical assistance. And I want to say that this was not my NextCycle Michigan experience at all. The NextCycle team, from the time I began my engagement and my application process, was always there to make sure that I was able to successfully complete my application and in a timely, low-stress manner. So I'm grateful for that. And after waiting and being accepted to the RIT track, NextTiles, my company, was invited to the boot camp associated with this track. And I will admit that I was a bit nervous to attend. It turned out to be awesome, but I was a bit nervous, especially kind of coming out of the pandemic and starting to interact with people for the first time. But it gave me an opportunity to meet and to network with the other teams accepted on the track and to become much more familiar with Michigan's recycling ecosystem. I haven't always been in the recycling space, and I recognize that I have tons of things to learn. And so I walked away from that boot camp with so much knowledge about these different recycling sectors. Megan just spoke to the wide range of projects that were accepted, and with many new relationships that will help me down the road. For me, I mentioned to the team the other day that for me, the highlight of this boot camp was having an opportunity to pitch in person. I actually started my business during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, and I had only done virtual accelerators and virtual pitch competitions. So the boot camp really felt like a new beginning for me. I was able to get feedback on my pitch deck and my ability to convey the goal of my business, not only from the NextCycle team, but feedback from other track teams. And that insight ultimately helped me to improve my ability to go in these different spaces and talk about my business and share what we do. So that was incredibly helpful. Another thing I would like to mention is that NextCycle Michigan, as I've grown to understand the organization, not only provides funding opportunities, but it really does act as a point of connection to other accelerators, other mentors, and other programs. Since the boot camp that I just talked about, I have started to work really closely with Dan Radomski, who leads the Centropolis Accelerator at Lawrence Tech. And Dan and his team of entrepreneurs and residents have not only provided me with additional flexibility in terms of funding, but helped to expedite our product development process and really believed in the NextTiles vision. And that accelerator, just to shout it out a bit, it specializes in hardware and small manufacturing, which is a great fit for a company like mine. Sometimes product development can feel like this grand fiasco. So that team has been really helpful in getting NextTiles to a point where we have a tangible product, you know, like building insulation that is closer to going to market. And so I want to reiterate that that relationship is a direct result of me engaging with NextCycle Michigan, and I cannot be happier with how it's going and how much progress we've made. The final item that I will mention is the amazing NextCycle Michigan showcase and pitch competition held this past March. And so in addition to securing grant dollars via that competition and showcase and having a chance to put my new pitching skills to the test, I was able to meet several raw material suppliers, potential investors, people interested in piloting our insulation product. And I had a real opportunity to showcase my business to yet another room of people wanting to advance recycling initiatives in the state of Michigan. And it was absolutely worthwhile. My entire RIT experience has been absolutely worthwhile. And so I hope the few points that I've touched on and shared with you have shown you guys what a wonderful opportunity this offers. And, you know, that NextCycle Michigan really provides a world of support to move your business forward. And I will pass things back over to Megan now. Thanks for listening.
Yep, I'm just going to transition us. Madeline, thank you so much for giving us that recap of your experience. It is great to hear about all of the support and collaboration that goes into the NextCycle program and what you've been able to achieve since then. So thank you so much for sharing. Stick around. Question and answer session is coming up shortly. If you haven't put your questions in yet, please use the Q&A button. I will get those queued up and we will be getting our entire panelist group up in just one moment. First, Megan, do you mind taking a moment and walking us through what people can expect around the application and selection process?
Yeah, absolutely, Melissa. So now that you've heard about the challenge tracks, you're excited about getting this free technical assistant, you're excited about making these partnerships. How do I get into this track? So the application opens today. It is on the NextCycle Michigan website, or it will be here in a few hours. It'll be live. And there's a apply button up on that website corner. What you'll want to do is it's pretty easy. There's a 1-2 step here. There's an application packet. So there's a PDF that you'll download and it's track specific. So it'll go through, it'll lay out all of the application questions. It'll lay out the examples of other projects. It'll lay out the timeline, and then it'll also lay out the criteria for the challenge track. So you'll download that packet, you can read through it, it's got great information in there. And then to actually submit the application, there's this second piece, which is this online portal. So you'll go to the online portal. I think it asks you maybe 5 questions or something really small to fill out a little profile. You'll fill that out and then you can go through the online application. What's great about it is that you can save as you go. So you don't have to worry about, oh, I actually don't want to answer this question right now. It's too much to think about. You can just start it and then at your pace, save it as you go. Just make sure that you submit it by end of day, July 22nd. In terms of the selection process, so once July 22nd comes and the applications close, each of the challenge tracks has an independent panel of advisors. These are industry experts that we've gathered from across the sectors across Michigan. And so they'll be reviewing the applications, and these are the main selection criteria. They're similar for flows and for RIT. So some things to highlight here is, you know, we want to hear what's the value of your project? You know, why are you even doing this in the first place? How are you going to divert materials in Michigan? That's a big question. So you really need to answer that. You know, we want to hear about, does this have a, you know, potential? Are there customers that might be interested in this? You know, how is it going to be sustainable financially? And then really this program is really cool because it is focused on equity, on economic and environmental impacts. So those are all important things to keep in mind when you're filling out your application. In terms of resources, I just want to highlight that we have this great NextCycle Michigan email, and people really do answer this. Your email will not go into the ethers. People answer every single email. We also, if you go to the track web pages, so if you go to nextcyclemichigan.com, you can go to the innovation challenge tracks. You can look up say you're an organics team and you are on that Flows website, you can sign up to have a one-on-one with Bryce, or you can sign up to have a one-on-one with me. So you can sign up, you can schedule it automatically. So this office hour is a really cool tool, because you might be saying, I think that I'm probably eligible for Flows, but I don't quite get it yet. It's not making sense. You can talk to Bryce. You can schedule a meeting at a time that works for you and talk to him and say, hey, this is my project. Can you tell me more? Like, does this make sense? So this is a really cool tool. I encourage you just to sign up for office hours, because you get to talk to us directly. And then in addition to that, there's also a ton of other great resources on the NextCycle Michigan website. There are stories about past teams. There's a whole bunch of data visualizations, the gap analysis. There's a bunch of reports on there. So really cool. I highly recommend checking out the Learning Center too. So I think that's it for my piece. I think, Melissa, we're jumping into questions, right?
We are. So if I can ask all of our panelists to turn on their videos and join Megan and I on the screen here. We have a few questions that we want to go through, and getting everybody on here. All right. If you haven't sent your question over yet, there's still time. Use the Q&A button, type in your question. I have them all queued up here on my screen, and so I'm going to start asking our panelists questions. I have one from the aforementioned Dan Radomski of Centropolis. Thank you, Dan, for your question. What if the team is outside of Michigan and they need to identify Michigan waste streams and partners in the value chain? Can NextCycle help with that?
Yes, in a short answer, yes, absolutely. So if you're out of state, the best thing to do is to email that email address, is to sign up for an office hour and say, hey, I'm in New Jersey, but I'm trying to expand into Michigan. Can I, this is the type of partner I'm looking for. Or you might not know the type of partner you're looking for. You say, I just have this project and I'm not in Michigan. Can I, apply? And we will work with you to find that partnership. If Bryce and I don't have the answer, we have a whole partnership team. So we work really hard to do that matchmaking. Dan Radomski is very involved in that matchmaking as well. So he is also the one that is finding you that right partner for your project. So yes, absolutely.
Yes, can I add to that, Melissa?
Please do.
What we're seeing in Michigan right now is that perfect combination of technical assistance and funding that's being channeled through NextCycle. And it really is attracting businesses from around the country to invest here. And so I mentioned the data-driven focus of NextCycle, identifying where those gaps are. So we're seeing companies from around the world really think about Michigan as the place where they want to grow their business. So that's really good for some of you who might be listening to this call, thinking about how they can connect in with that. And that's a major part of what NextCycle is connecting those partnerships. So seeing who is looking for that, so that if your idea, you might be growing your idea and not even realize that there's somebody else out there around the world that wants to see you succeed and is interested in providing data and technical assistance to make that happen. So the answer is, yeah, just give us a call and we'll connect you to those teams. That's what this is all about.
Wonderful. And so again, just to reiterate what Megan on the slide before, with all those resources, reaching out to the NextCycle Michigan team via email or scheduling those virtual office hours is a great tool to get you started and to make sure you're on the right track as to where you need to go and what kind of connections you still need to make. Matt, since I have you on the line here, I want to go ahead and ask you the question that we always get, and that is money. how much money is available to teams to implement their projects, noting that, we were, told at the beginning of this that there isn't guaranteed funding, but is there money out there?
Right. So we have a couple of different pathways for building in your funding opportunities. Meaning, NextCycle is about getting good projects, good technical assistance, and then connecting those with funding available. Those main funding sources are local, state, federal, and entrepreneurial funding. We also have brand funding that's available. So your project will go through a process to identify how you can make that pitch and how you can find those partnerships. But the real big question is there any money that's directly attached to this, and do these projects have access to that funding? And the answer is clearly yes. Michigan has a $15 million funding source through Renew Michigan. The vast majority of that is going to communities and businesses to grow the recycling infrastructure and markets. You will have direct access, and I think Luis gave a great example of that, where he came in and said, okay, the micros funding, I've got this small project, we can begin to work on that, and then got his project to the stage that he was able to access the infrastructure dollars to help get some equipment and trucks and other material to grow his business. The primary reason he was successful at that is because he had a good plan. And so the answer to the simple answer to the question is up to $15 million is going to be directed into projects in Michigan from the Renew Michigan Fund, and that is leveraging brand dollars and other partner dollars that are supporting your project. So this is a good way to get in and get in line and get your project ready to approach those funds.
And as I was asking you that question, there was another question that came in for clarification, and I'm just going to go ahead and clarify that one. The application that you are submitting today, hopefully you're getting on there and you're downloading that packet, but that application that you're submitting is to participate in the NextCycle Michigan program. It is not for grant funding itself. The program is going to provide technical and business support to get you to the next stage where you're even more ready to apply for a grant that is separate from the NextCycle Michigan. So the application that we're talking about, you going on to nextcyclemichigan.com to download, is to join the program, not a specific grant.
Yeah, and to add to that, Melissa, there is an application out there that ends at the end of this month for the market development grants, and then we will have another application from Eagle, from the Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, on the website linked on NextCycle, that will be live in the fall. So getting ready, the timing is going to be really good for this one. This track is going to open, you're going to get your plan ready, and then you're going to come in for those funds when that application is open, through next year. Mm-hmm. And so that is what we want to do, is have the best success, make the best partnerships, get you the most money, get you the best technical assistance, so your project can be successful. We've got a lot of work to do in Michigan. There's a lot of people interested in growing recycling. And so we want to connect you with those resources.
Wonderful. Thank you, Matt, for adding on to that. I want to throw a question over to Bryce about the kinds of technical support that are going to be available. If I get accepted into NextCycle Michigan, what kind of technical and business support can I expect? But I also want to give a heads up to Madeline and Luis that I'm going to come to you next after Bryce has given a general view. And if you could just reiterate what specific supports you received for your projects as you went through. But Bryce, can you give us a general idea? What types of support are we looking at here?
Yeah, so a lot of it is kind of on the front end. It's a lot of that planning support. So we help to listen to your project plan and help really organize that into kind of a step-by-step phased approach, which is really what's necessary to get some of this funding. And so we help with that planning aspect of things. And yeah, I don't want to steal Louise's thunder, but like some of the specific technical assistance that we can provide is then, we have engineers on staff. We have folks that have experience with business development and finance. And so we can help you with your business plan, looking at your pro forma and identifying where there might be more, a more optimized way of perhaps pricing your product or service, or some ways that you can reduce your costs. So those are some key areas. There are opportunities to get support in product development. That's where Centropolis comes into play, and Madeline will probably talk a little bit more detail about that. The list really does go on. We have economists on the team that can look at your product and help you make the case that, okay, if I deploy X number of units into the marketplace, it's going to result in this much diversion of waste. And so we can help you make the case there. Let's see. I mean, there's also we have a strong communications arm, and so if you have marketing needs, we can help you develop collateral. We can help you put your messaging out there. We are kind of a full service all across the value chain organization, and we have all those experts that can help you wherever you are in that value chain, whether you need to simply communicate, whether you need to work on the fundamentals, whether you need to develop supply chain partnerships. We could tap you into the network to do that as well. So I could probably talk for days about this, but I'll stop now and let someone else speak from their experience.
Yeah, Madeline, would you mind just talking, I know you did tell us a lot, but just real quick, what were some of the specific business or technical support that you received that you think really made a difference?
Yeah, well, early on, I had quite a bit of help reviewing my business plan. We did several walkthroughs of a business model canvas to understand the goals of the business. We've created risk assessment plans. When it comes to Centropolis specifically, we've identified testing labs for our physical product, equipment to process our material, even new potential warehouse spaces. And Bryce spoke to marketing needs a bit. I've had help creating social media content, sales sheets, explainer videos for our product. So there really are no sorts of limits when it comes to the support that you guys provide. And if there's something that you can't do or is not under the scope of what you cover, then you guys are awesome about connecting us to people who can help.
Wonderful. Thank you, Madeline. And Luis, I'll ask you, what type of technical or business support did you receive that you think this made a difference in where you're at now?
Yeah, definitely. It really became about how much time I had because I mean, there was so much offered that I really had to pick, okay, what's important right now and what we can focus on these 6 months. So one of the things was, okay, with our business model, okay, we had this amazing product that we wanted to make at the end after composting all this food waste. So, okay, how can we continue with that quality, but in focus and with the goal of growing diversion? So, okay, NextCycle put me in contact with other similar companies and people in the industry. So we came to the conclusion, okay, yeah, it's going to be really tough to keep contamination away. So we looked into other revenues or other sources of streams of food waste that could be more cleaner. Okay, with the residential pickup service, we're always it's gonna be really difficult to have all those customers to put the stickers away, the rubber bands, the twist ties. So we looked at some similar companies and how they were handling things and what we could do moving forward and just learning from others,
Thank you, Luis. I truly appreciate that. It really gives, puts a spotlight on what seems to be a healthy amount of support that the teams are getting. And we have a few minutes left, and I wanted to, Bryce or Megan or if you both have a closing remark, what is something that if people watch this webinar, what is the key takeaway you want them to think about? We're going to close this in a couple of minutes, and this is what you want them to think or do.
You want to go first?
I can say my Twitter version pitch. It's really open-ended. So come to us in all stages of development. All types of ideas are welcome. There are great resources in terms of being able to connect directly to the staff. And this is a zero equity accelerator, meaning this is free technical assistance and partnership with it, which is really exciting for recycling, and composting projects. So yeah, we don't take any of your equity once you're growing as a small business, which is really cool. So that's it.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I was going to kind of go on the same theme where, like we're here to help you, like what we get out of this is seeing you succeed. And so, we're a resource. And if you have an idea that you need help growing, come to us. We're going to meet you where you are and help move you forward wherever that may be. And so, we're in it for the mission. We're in it to help you. And that's really it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I know we didn't get to every question. Great questions that came in. If you have additional concerns, questions, ideas, and you're not quite sure where you should be, which track you should be on, if really this project or this idea fits the NextCycle model, contact us. That's the key. NextCycleMI@recycle.com is our email. You can feel free to reach out there. We talked about those virtual office hours. Go on to the website at NextCycleMichigan.com. If you go on the track pages, you'll see that there are links there for various resources, including schedule that meeting, that virtual office hour. I would also like to remind you that on the website, the application's there. Please be sure to go and click on apply. You'll pick the track and you'll download that packet. But there are other resources as well. As you navigate through the site, you're going to see that you can read stories like Madeline's and Louise's from past teams, and see what other projects are out there that have been supported. You can dig into various data resources that are freely available, ready for you to look at, and may even help you with your application preparation. And even if you don't plan to participate as a team, you can still get involved either as a funding partner or even just spread the word. There are so many businesses and universities and nonprofits out there that may be interested and just haven't heard about this program quite yet. So be an ambassador for NextCycle and share this information out there. So we're at our time for the day. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to our audience. As always, this has been a pleasure to host, and I'm going to wish everyone a fabulous day.